Hi guys. So today I'm working on painting the new house, which this may seem kind of out of order to do this, but to be honest with you guys, these walls and ceilings in this house are so nasty that I can't take it anymore. Honestly, it looks like the walls are cream colored. When I removed baseboards, they originally were white. So it's pretty disgusting. There's massive amounts of like fly poop everywhere and just really yucky nastiness. I don't know if maybe the previous owner, if he smoked in here or something of the sort, or if it was just from poor housekeeping. I really don't know, but it just kind of, it's one of those things that like you can't unsee the amount of nastiness. So you guys can see down there is where baseboards were at that I removed, and that's the rest of the wall color. It's kind of gross. But so I'm working on getting the primer done today. I did get one wall in the kitchen already done. I did that yesterday. I got part of a wall done. I still had paint left in the sprayer after painting the one bedroom, which is going to be Tracy and I's temporary bedroom while the work is getting done on the master in here. There is some serious structural work getting done in there, which basically there's just a big, huge hole in the floor right now, and like everything's all cut up, and we basically just have the door shut and pushed shut so that way all of the cold air and any critters that might be coming up from underneath of there can't get into the rest of the house. So clearly before anything gets done in here, in terms of like us moving in or being able to do anything like that, that needs to be addressed. So that is the big thing that the biggest project that's getting tackled in the house before we move forward, which I guess it is and it isn't. We did discover that we have to replumb the entire house. So when we were ripping out the dishwasher, I discovered that all of the piping, which it was CPVC, which that I've seen in renovation shows where it becomes problematic after a while, and it becomes very brittle. So you guys can see back in here, it pretty much just like splintered out. So we actually got all of the PEX that we need to replumb the entire house. So that's going to be a big undertaking for Tracy to do. She's probably going to work on doing that this weekend because she has a 3-day weekend, so that'll give her plenty of time to, be up and figuring it out and all that stuff. So the previous owner had ran the water lines behind the baseboard. So a lot of the baseboard that's on the south side of the house, the back side of the house, got destroyed whenever we were pulling it up because there was spray foam around the piping to keep it protected. So yeah, a lot of that got destroyed while we were taking things out. So not a big deal. What we did plan on doing is we're actually planning on making a bulkhead for up in here, because the plumbing, it goes all the way from back there, that wall right there, that's where the bathroom is. So it's gonna have to come this whole span. So what I'm gonna do is just poke a hole in that wall there on both sides, and then also do the same for in the bathroom. So then the plumbing can just go up and then along the edge here, and then we'll end up putting like a decorative shelf to put like knickknacks and things of that nature on there. That's just going to make it so it's so much easier for us to run plumbing, and then if we ever do need to add more electrical or do anything different like that, it's going to be big enough that we have a nice channel that we can get through to wherever we need to without having to crawl underneath of the house. So since this is a double wide, it just has a crawl space, and to be honest, I don't even know if I could fit in the crawl space in a lot of the places. So it's not something that you really want to get down there for anything. And a lot of the insulation that's underneath of the house is actually like destroyed, falling down, things of that nature. So we're used to having homes with unheated basements. So it's basically just going to be the same sort of a scenario. And since we're not going to have any water lines, any plumbing at all underneath of the house, it's really not that big of a deal. So that's something that's kind of going to be a pain here, but really also in the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal. So this wall here is what I got painted already. And I did get a little bit of this bulkhead here painted, so you guys can see that's white paint. That's the rest of it. So it's kind of pretty freaking nasty. So I didn't move the fridge yesterday, so you guys can really see it. I don't know if the lighting is going to cooperate. Where I painted, and then up above there is where I did not paint. So it's pretty yucky. So contractor friend, he got the words are hard today. He got the hallway wall moved out. So that got framed this week, which I think it looks amazing to have such a big, wide walkway to get through here. I think honestly it's going to be really nice with having the dogs and all that stuff to just have such a wide walkway. I think whenever before I had demoed the drywall that was in here, I think that I had measured it being like 6.5 feet wide or something like that. So I mean, it's going to be a great big hallway to walk through. You could dance through, you could hold arms, you could, run a 3-legged race through here if you wanted to. So nothing really has changed in the living room at all, except for we did remove a spot of really, really nasty carpet there. That's where pads were stuck, and I don't even want to go into what I'm assuming happened there, because it just kind of skeeves me out a little. Makes me very curious as to why there's so much fly poop everywhere, and just, if you know, you know. Then it makes sense as to why I'm painting and covering everything up. But so I do believe that in the master we have a whole bunch of the floor ripped out. We had to replace a massive amount of the floor joists that are in there. The sill plate was gone. A lot of the foundation needs rebuilt. So it's a pretty big undertaking, especially for doing it when it's this cold out. So it's been one of those things where it's kind of temporarily put on pause until it's warm enough that it's not freezing. Currently today, it's like the real feel is I think 1 degree Fahrenheit. So it is very, very cold. But so I'm pretty certain, let me backtrack for a second. So basically game plan is we are not replacing any flooring right now. We are not changing the flooring at all. What I'm gonna do is where all of like the plywood and all that stuff is at, I'm gonna end up pulling up all of the staples, pounding them in, whatever, and then just painting over it. Because to be honest with you guys, the same amount of water damage that was in the master, I think there's gonna be a similar amount, not quite as extensive. But I do believe that there's going to need to be repairs done on other parts of the house. So I don't want to set stuff up so that way it's ready for flooring to be laid in here, when in all reality, once we start like tearing into the siding and re-siding the house because the house desperately needs it, I think that we're going to end up uncovering a lot of issues, a lot of structural issues. So like over in here, this was our first clue to that this is a problem, is when I was pulling off the baseboard, I don't know how well, I'll flip you guys. You can see outside where the baseboard was at. So there's a lot of places, like random little places like that, where it's like, shucks, that ain't no good. So what I'm just gonna do is for right now, I'm just gonna screw this piece of plywood here, cover it up, and then that's a problem that we can address in the springtime. So, you know, it's kind of, now it won't stay. I had it balanced perfectly there before I moved it for you guys, but it's kind of one of those things where we're in such a weird position where it's like, all right, there's things that need to be done and addressed, but it's also stuff that's like, okay, we can live with this, we can live with that, we can live with this, we can live with that. So it's just, I don't know, one of those things. But yeah, so I want to show you guys the bedroom. So I made quite a bit of progress in here. This is just primer. This is not the color that we're painting the walls. I talked to the lady at the paint store at Lowe's, and she said basically that because of how much fly poop and staining there is on the walls and just how nasty it is, and because all of the walls are textured, it's going to be a nightmare to try to wash them, to try to clean them, to try to scrub them. So she advised me to get a special type of primer that they don't actually make anymore, but they still had 1 5-gallon jug of it that was on clearance. So I was able to get that. So yeah, you guys can see walls are now white. You can see the contrast because I just sprayed a little bit onto the ceiling. You can see the contrast of the colors between white and what once was white. It is covered in nastiness. And then all of the lights are the same way. Like, I don't know how well you guys can see all of the yuck. So we do have, from doing our previous house, well, our current house, I am so screwed up because this place feels like home, but Tracy's not here, the dogs aren't here, the cats aren't here, you know, all the farm animals are not here. So it's like when I go back to home, I'm excited to see everybody, but then it's just like, I want to get back in the car and come back here. So it's very confusing and complicated. But so anyways, we do have a lot of like leftover light fixtures and things of that nature from our current house project. So I think that I'm probably going to have Tracy, especially in this room here, because this is temporarily going to be our bedroom. I think I'm going to have her this weekend swap out that light, so in that way that's something that we don't have to like lay in bed looking at, because it just, I know we could clean it, but in reality the blades of the ceiling fan are also like melting downward instead. So it just, there's some stuff that I'm just like, the way that it feels is too yucky for me and stuff, but you know, it is what it is. So last time I filmed here, I had said that the next time I would film here that there wouldn't be a kitchen cupboard there. I lied. When I started taking it all apart, I realized that the previous owner had built it the exact same way that I would have built it, with like 2x4s and doing things like that and making it really sound and strong. So I was like, oh, shoot. Well, since I got the countertop ripped off, I got the dishwasher out of there and all of that stuff. I'm like, this actually is in pretty good functionality shape. This will save me a ton of time and energy to not have to rebuild all of this. So I did end up pulling out the drawers and the cupboards and things of that nature, which I forgot to grab this cupboard door here, which I probably will just end up leaving that there and repainting. But so everything in here was so filled with like mouse poop and nastiness that I was like, there's not enough cleaning that'll get that done, because the base of it all was like OSB, and I'm like, that basically just absorbs everything like a sponge. And I'm like, I'm never gonna feel comfortable putting my silverware in a drawer that just is always gonna smell like nastiness. Like, I can't. There's a lot of things that I've done in the past, a lot of ways that I've lived in the past out of necessity. This is not one of those situations. Like, even though we don't have a lot right now towards this renovation and stuff, it's one of those things where it's also like, there's some lines that I'm not comfortable. There's some stuff that I'm just not worth it. But so the one thing that's going to be challenging is because we bumped this wall over like 3 feet, I will have to piece in to make it so that way the ceilings and stuff in here, which I don't know if I ever showed you guys the ceilings. This is the ceilings in the living room. And then it also continues into the hallway and then into the bathroom. And then the utility room also. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to harvest some boards out of the utility room ceiling or the walls, something of the sort like that, to then piece them in for the ceiling over in here, just so that way it looks cohesive and it flows really nicely to just be able to just go all the way through. So it's gonna be really nice. I do have a little bit more demo to do in the living room, basically just removing the paneling that's over in here, because I had to take the shelf down. So then, I don't know if you guys can see. There we go. I have to remove this custom built shelf that's in here. There's one on the other side too, so that way I can pull the paneling off. I just haven't gotten that far. The living room's not that high of a priority to get done, because, well, it just really isn't. Like, it's not that important. Like, the dogs can sit on the floor. Like, we have other chairs, we have other things that it's just not high on the list. So yeah, basically getting bathroom and kitchen and bedroom functional, and the rest of it being safe for the pets to walk around. That's the only objective at this point. So probably after this week, we're probably going to be to the point where I will have to shift focus to getting our current house ready to be able to be shown, which is going to be a whole mess of complicatedness of stress and anxiety and stuff, because everything that was done at our house, pretty much, a lot of it was my first time doing it, like as an ultimate like DIY type of experiment or experience sort of a thing. So it's very nerve-wracking for me to potentially have people coming in, walking through the house and essentially judging my performance on it, even though nobody's going to actually be like, oh, Lindsay, you did this, or you did that, or you did good, or you didn't. It basically is just going to be reflected in how fast does it sell, what kind of, money we're going to be able to make off of it, and, things of that nature. So it's very much, puts me in my head a lot, gives me a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety to be mentally going over of, I'm getting graded essentially on what I did as a beginner, as a newbie, as somebody that basically was just winging everything. So it just, like, I know that I did a good job and stuff, but it still just makes me so nervous, just to know that Judgment Day is coming. Like, that's just how it feels. It's just like, oh God, like, but it's one of those things where I've had faith this whole time, and I've taken this many leaps of faith at this point, that it's one of those things of, I've got to just keep hoping and praying that, everything is good. So yeah, we did have a furnace repairman come out yesterday. He was not able to do anything at all with the furnace because the whole electrical system, somebody had pulled the fuse part of it out, and there was nothing there. There was nothing that he could do. He didn't have that piece with him. He said that he's gonna have to come back like next week and bring a whole new electrical thing. It's like a outlet thing, a shut off and stuff. I cannot think of for the life of me what the name of it is, but when we installed the mini split at our current house, we had to put one of these boxes outside, so that way it's a quick disconnect, power off thing. So he has to get one of those, bring one of those here. He said that with it being 30 years old, it really is at the end of its life cycle, that he just serviced one in the area a couple of months back or whatever, and it still was functional, but like he's still able to get parts for it. So he said, chances are, hopefully nothing's broke, but chances are, because it's so old, that the compressor is probably bad, the coil might be bad, things of that nature. So he said that it could be the parts for each of those items. He said, I think was like potentially like $2,500 for each thing. But so it is fixable. I asked him the price of a new one just out of curiosity, and he said basically it's like 15 to 20 grand for if we need a new one. So it's one of those things of, I really, really hope that it works currently. That's my biggest hope. And if it doesn't work currently, that it just needs one little part or one thing done to it, so that way it's not such a huge hiccup. But it will be very nice to be able to have heat in here. I was asking him too about like the efficiency and things of that nature of this system, even though it is basically a dinosaur geothermal system and stuff. And he said that even with it being so old and ancient, that it still is going to be far more efficient than heating with propane, with fuel oil, or even with just regular electric. So that's really good. He said that the only thing it's going to be cheaper to heat with is if we, harvested our own firewood, which, we've done that in the past. It's not something I really want to do. I like having the wood stove just as like an additional heat source, as a backup heat source, or to create a nice ambiance for when we want to just have like a really cozy atmosphere of just a lazy winter day, kind of like how it is today. It's very cold out, it's very snowy. I'll pop you guys outside so you guys can see how pretty this is. But I will have to be quick because I do not have enough clothing on for this adventure. But check that out. Ain't that just gorgeous? I did not realize how steep that hill was until we got all the snow on it, and I'm like, oh wow, that's almost vertical. Like, that would be pretty sketchy to try to walk up on. And I did too one of the last times I was here. I've been here literally every single day since we got the place. But the other day when I was here, I was walking around and I did find one maple tree that is very easily accessible for me to tap this year. And then I found another one that's up on that steep hillside. It's probably 15 feet vertically up. So I don't know if I'll be able to tap that one or not. I probably will not attempt it this year just because I like doing it for fun. And I think that I'm going to have my hands so full with projects here come end of this month and in February that I'm not going to have time to do a massive amount of sap cooking. So it is kind of good that I found one tree that'll produce. When we lived in town and I tapped the trees in town, we had 2 trees in town that I tapped. I think I got like 4 quarts of syrup a year or so. So, that one tree is probably going to produce less than that, but it might produce more because it's right next to the stream, so it's got a good water flow. There's a whole bunch of science to how much water it gets and how many other maple trees are competing and all sorts of stuff. So I'm guessing that one tree is probably going to produce 2 to 3 quarts worth of syrup for me, which is plenty for my pancakes and waffles and things of that nature. But it is kind of disappointing because I'd really hoped that when we moved that I would have like a nice sugar bush that I could tap a whole bunch of trees, so that way I could basically switch from putting sugar in my coffee to maple syrup because I really like it that way. But it is what it is. I have the basis covered. I have the most important parts covered of getting to have it for my pancakes. So that's all I really need in reality. So yeah, I'm gonna cut this off here because it's getting cold with the heaters turned off and you guys cannot hear me with them turned on. So I'm gonna cut this off and I'm gonna work on getting walls brushed down the rest of the way because I realized while filming that I missed some spider webby, yucky stuff over here. And then I'm gonna pull the fridge out and just go to town spraying the primer, and I'm gonna hit the ceilings too. So then that way the nastiest parts of it are all covered with the primer at least once. Obviously in the living room, there's just insulation on walls. I still have to put drywall up. I'm not sure if we're gonna do paneling or just finish the drywall. I actually don't like the way that regular drywall looks. So like when it's all flat and perfect looking, I don't like that. So this drywall here has a funky texture to it, which I don't know if you guys will be able to, I don't think you guys will be able to see it. It kind of looks like chickens walking through the snow, like little chicken feet prints all over the place. I actually really like it. So it's on the ceilings, it's on the walls. So I'm kind of partial to it. But I'm not partial to it enough that I want to try to recreate it in the rest of the house. So we might just end up putting up some drywall and then putting paneling over top of it and then painting it, because Tracy and I actually really like the look of painted paneling. I like the symmetry of all of the lines, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking, because we decided that we're going to keep the shiplapping walls, the live edge walls, or the rough sawn lumber on this end here, and then over here it has the same, and then it's on the ceiling too. So we decided we're going to keep all of that. I don't know if it's going to clash if on that wall there and that wall there in the living room, if it has like vertical lines from paneling. So let me know what you guys think, just because multiple opinions are very helpful at this stage. So yeah, that's it for today. I'm going to get busy before it's time for me to go home and before I can't feel my hands and feet anymore. So thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys.